Hi, my name's Reese,
I'm Liz.
I'm Thomas.
And I'm Megan.
and on today's episode of WOCTOK, we're going to be looking at the perfect ideal 30-degree turn.
All right, so Thomas is our patient today. We want to turn patient's Q2 hour with the Braden of 18 or below. His Braden is 16. So what we're going to do to start our turn is we're going to pull him up in the bed, and we're going to pull him to the side opposite of the way we're going to turn. So 1, 2, 3. We want to pull him towards me. That way, when we turn that way, his arm doesn't hit the rail. So we want to go ahead and get our turn started. We're going to use a wedge in the 30-degree position. We're going to place it shoulder to right above the sacrum. When the patient leans back, we're going to place our hand under and make sure that we cannot feel the sacrum. We want it off the bed. To promote comfort in the patient, we can also place a pillow between his knees. And then something else to consider when you raise your patient up in the bed is to raise the knee gatch first. That way, when you sit them up, they do not slide down in the bed as much. Something else beneficial about this position is it does provide a little bit more airflow, this kind of turn, and it's great for incontinent patients as well.
So now we're going to look at improper wedge placement.
All right, one of the things that we see most common is that the wedge is placed directly under the gluteals, and so you don't offload the sacrum. When people put it right there, you're actually not offloading the bone at all. It's still in contact with that wedge, creating pressure. Another common thing that we see, the long part of the wedge needs to be against the flat part of the bed. So if you have it like this, or if you have it like this, you've probably got the patient too high and it's uncomfortable, or it's more likely to squeeze out, and then you have no offloading whatsoever.
So sometimes when we're using the wedge, what we see is patients may look uncomfortable or malpositioned once we've turned them back on their backs. And we're going to demonstrate what sometimes we see that is also incorrect. So when the wedge is placed correctly, again, the sacrum and the gluteals are offloaded properly. As you can see, the patient's almost in the sideline position here. And sometimes what we'll see after we put the pillow in place is there's a habit of kind of pulling patients back because it looks lopsided. And what we've done now is essentially place the patient back on their gluteals, on their sacrum. So now the patient is essentially back in that position where they first started. So just remember that when you're using the wedge, you don't need to pull on the opposite side to straighten the patient back. We want them in that sideline position. So now we want to demonstrate using just a hospital pillow for turning, because sometimes we see this, and what you'll find is that the patients actually collapse the pillow and they return back to their backside. So we're going to turn her now. Thomas is going to place the pillow back under the lumbar kind of back area, and we're going to turn her back. And what you'll see immediately as she turns back is that it's completely collapsed the pillow and the patient is back on the bed. So therefore, she is not properly offloaded.
Yeah, there's no dead space here.
And this just, again, reinforces the need for the use of the foam wedge to get that patient at the perfect 30-degree angle.
Ow! I cannot take this.
So you may have heard this before. When patients sometimes use the foam wedge, they may complain of discomfort. That's understandable. So we want to offer a compromise on this.
So a lot of times, if you are using the pillow, a good way to do this to get the offloading is you can fold it in half like this, and you can stuff it there. And when you let the patient go, they will still have the dead space. It is better, I find, to actually use 2 pillows if you have them in your unit. And then when you lay her back, you can still have the dead space there. You can also fold the pillow vertically to cover more area, but just make sure you're tucking it real far underneath when you do offload, so that you have the dead space right there for the sacral bone.
Okay.
Thank you. That feels a lot better.
We're glad.
So we wanted to show how to turn with just one nurse or tech in the room. Obviously, the ideal way to turn is to have multiple people in the room to help turn, but we understand sometimes things are busy and we still want to offer a way for the patient to be turned. So first thing you want to do is usually you want kind of a long draw sheet. You'd want to get your wedge ready and put it on the side of the bed that you're going to use it on. You then want to take the patient and pull them over. You can either have the patient grab the rail to hold, or you can hold with the sheet, and then you can place your wedge and let the patient roll back. Something to remember is just to make sure you're not lifting with your shoulder. You keep your shoulders down, and definitely utilize the patient to try and help hold that rail as best they can.
So the last thing that we want to demonstrate is just turning a patient while they're in the chair. Now, this patient is already on a waffle chair cushion, and so we want to show using our pillows how to properly turn in the chair. So first thing we're going to do, safely lay the patient back. Then we're going to turn Meg to her side. Thomas is going to place that pillow kind of, again, in that proper position like we talked about earlier. Once she's kind of back on her back, we're going to raise her back up so she's comfy. And then we can place our pillows wherever we like. There we go. She's effectively in a nice lazy boy. Thanks again for joining us today for our video on how to turn your patient.
Remember to always check and make sure there's dead space behind the sacrum.
We understand that patients might want to compromise and might not tolerate the purple foam wedge, so we hope you take the examples we showed today into your practice.
Also remember that no specialty mattress or specialty bed replaces the need for turning.
So, stay tuned for WOCTOK. Our next episode will be coming shortly. Yeah, pause, restart. Action.
And so this is the proper turn. This is how we do it.
I'm in that sideline position. Okay. We're really glad that you could join us today to watch. I'm gonna start over. My mouth's getting dry. I can feel it too.